Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. Inter Miami wins on penalties. 2 points for the Herons. We will talk about what that means. But for now, Luis Suarez puts Inter Miami ahead 5-4, and they win the penalty shootout. 5 made penalties and a big stop by Rocco gets Inter Miami the win in penalties. They get 2 points, and I think maybe survive for another day. What a game. I have to say, this is probably the single game where I have the absolute most thoughts, from the red card in the first half to the Messi injury, to the substitutions, to the comeback, to the decision to play a more aggressive style, even down a man, to the second red card, to Inter Miami's stoppage time equalizer thanks to Jordi Alba, all the way into penalties. An incredible, there was some absolutely outstanding performances by Inter Miami players, and we're going to talk all about it. This is The Raw Reaction. I'm your host, Scotty. I will be joined shortly by my co-host, Saur, to talk about this unbelievable game from basically from start to finish. In the third minute, Tadeo Allende misses a shot really badly, and I thought there was a chance that was going to be one of the biggest talking points of this game. But wow, how far have we come since then? It was, I thought, just an unbelievable amount to talk about. Saur, thank you for joining me. What are your initial thoughts? You're on mute.
I'm saying the game's gone. The referee ruined it. Could have been a great game for Inter Miami. So many talking points.
Yeah.
But first thoughts are, I think it's done. We don't have too much chance.
Okay, let's just start there.
Yeah.
That is the worst call in an Inter Miami game I've ever seen in 6 years of watching Inter Miami. The only call that I think represented a similar reaction to me was in 2023, the game after Phil Neville gets fired. Kamal Miller gets a red card for a dogso in the 7th minute. And I was just so heartbreaking because they needed something good to happen in that game. It was Javier Morales' first game in charge. But that was actually a foul, and he deserved to get the dogso. It was just crushing because of the moment. This is so much worse because it wasn't even a foul. I agree with you. It was the worst. I mean, I actually thought the referee for the rest of the game was okay, but you can't make up for it when you have a call that tremendously awful. Inter Miami was the better team, the more talented team. They should have won this game by multiple goals. I have no doubt they would have if this game stayed 11-on-11, even without Lionel Messi. I think that if Inter Miami doesn't advance with 8 points, it's going to be because of that call.
I actually disagree, because I think this game can be divided into segments, right? There's so much to talk about, so
I know
we should get into it as soon as possible. But I think the first thing was the red card. Inter Miami was playing well, on top. I thought we were going to win this game. You get the red card, the game completely changes. Necaxa's on top. They're putting their full effort. I think Inter Miami was poor. The substitutions were not good.
We'll talk about them.
You could influence the game in a certain way to make sure you, as you would say, turtle up. But I think Inter Miami could still have gone a little bit more in terms of creating opportunities when they were 10 men down. But that's fine. I think that's it. It's understandable. It's difficult to play with 10 men. They score that goal. But when they get the red card, I think the game's back on.
I agree.
And from then till the 90th minute, I think Inter Miami did not deserve to win this outright.
I agree.
They didn't do enough to take the game to Necaxa. And in a lot of moments, Necaxa was the better team. And I was thinking to myself, Javi Marciano, here's your chance to influence this game and go win it. And I think the substitutions that he made, the decisions that he made starting from that red card were all wrong. Inter Miami was the better team over the course of 90 minutes. I think some of the players were phenomenal, but there were glaring holes in the way we were playing and in the personnel that was on the pitch that made me think this could have gone a very different direction if we'd made certain choices at different points during the game.
And let me clarify. I meant Inter Miami was clearly the more talented team. I didn't
Yeah,
mean
yeah,
they had the better
absolutely.
performance by a standing margin.
1-1, Inter Miami could have won this game easily, even without Messi on
Easily.
the pitch, by the way.
Agreed. That's what I meant. I have so many thoughts that maybe I'm just going to chalk some notes down and then we'll get to the chat and we'll see which ones we kind of talk about from the chat because I think there's just so much. Natalia says, "Sign me up for that secret anti-Suarez coalition." I thought Suarez was fantastic in this game. I thought he was
disagree.
fantastic.
I
I
disagree.
think
I had a draft in my tweets ready, and I can read it out to you. I said, it's about time that we get away from the argument that Suarez has that one moment of magic in his game, because for the rest 89 minutes, he is terribly poor. This was not the game for him after the game was 10 men down. It was not. If he was on the pitch, that's fine. But you needed legs next to him to be able to influence and have an outlet ball. Fafa Pico
fine,
should have
but that's
come
not what
on
we're talking about. That's
much
not what we're talking
earlier.
about.
But
That's
I
not what we're
still
talking about.
think Suarez was not good in this game.
I thought he was so good. The amount of times he earned ticky-tack fouls in order to let the team move forward, the amount of times he played them out of danger, I thought he was fantastic.
I completely
I thought he was
disagree. I think the
fantastic.
number of times he broke up play, there was that one instance where he was on the left-hand side of the pitch. He could have taken the ball and created an opportunity either through a cross or take a shot. He stepped on the ball and tripped. And I was thinking to myself,
fine.
this is
that
and
was in
that's
the 81st minute, and that's one
no,
moment.
I think
No, I
that
agree
was
with,
representative of the game, but I'm sure the chat will have thoughts, so we can get to that. But I disagree with that opinion. I thought he was very poor.
I thought he was
Not
excellent.
heron that flew north, though. By the way, just saying.
Well, no, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I thought he was excellent. We can agree to disagree, and we'll listen. We'll
Yeah,
go back
yeah.
and rewatch the game. So I guess we could just leave it at that. But I thought the decisions he was making to help get us out of danger a lot, I thought were like spectacular. You're right. He did trip over the ball once. That
No.
definitely
But
happens.
that wasn't the point, though. My point was, I think he disrupted play, and when I say disrupted play, you're talking about earning the fouls, the small scrappy moments. I think that was detrimental and hindrance to what Inter Miami wanted to do because we weren't getting the flow, and Suarez is a big reason why we just stop in the tracks sometimes. And we
Okay.
can talk about it. Let's move on to the next
Well,
talking point. Something to analyze for
but
the rewatch.
relevant response. I think you would be absolutely right if we were 11 on 11, but I think when you're down a man, sometimes you need like a breathing moment. So
At least for what 25 30 minutes, it was 10 versus 10, and I think my representation of his game was more for that 25 minutes rather than the 10 versus 11.
okay.
You can't do much with 10 versus
I think maybe I'm thinking the opposite where I thought
Yeah.
he was outstanding when we were down a man, and maybe that's
No,
behind
I
that
was
idea.
my emphasis for this discussion specifically is when we were down 10 to 10. Like for me, because 10 versus 11, a team can play multiple different ways and you can be good or bad, but you can't blame the team for playing a certain way because you're obviously a man down. So for me, I think a lot of my analysis and what I say in this is going to be based on the last 25 minutes when we were 10 versus 10. By the way, we won the penalties. We should talk about that. Rocco Rios Novo saved a goal.
We will definitely talk about it.
Great performance by him again.
I think this is so funny because Suarez is probably like the 12th most interesting talking point about this game.
We
It just
just
happened to
hung
be
up
the
on
first
it.
one. Okay. Anton says, I blame both Necaxa goals on Lujan. The first one definitely was Cello and Noah Allen for sure. I think you're probably thinking it was Lujan on I can't remember who scored the first goal for Necaxa, but it was Noah Allen that should have bodied him off. I also think
Noah Allen's
Cello.
fault,
I
yeah.
think Cello also had a big role because he didn't get out there fast enough. He was pretty slow to get out there and disrupt the cross. The second goal, absolutely on Gonzalo Lujan, and I was thinking like, I can't believe that our tournament is over because of the most predictable player being on the field, especially today when you had all these other options off the bench. So second goal for me is 1,000% on Gonzalo Lujan.
Absolutely. What was he even thinking? There was no reason for him to step up because Yannick Bright was right there to stop anything. He had to follow the man. Oh,
I know he had some really poor moments in this game. Anton says it was a mistake not to bring on Fafa for Suarez, as I think Javier Mascherano originally intended. You needed the runner, and Fafa has proven he can score. So this is, I think, a big moment that you were alluding to. When you make the 3-man substitution after they get their red card, Javier Mascherano is planning a 3-man substitution before the second red card for Necaxa. He's going to bring on Fafa Picault, probably for Luis Suarez. I think that it was the thinking. And then Necaxa gets that second yellow. That goes back to 10 versus 10. And Javier Mascherano changes his mind. Instead, he takes off Noah Allen for Toto Aviles. And we get Yannick Bright and Kremaski. We don't exactly know who would have come off, but I think it's reasonable to assume it would have been Luis Suarez for Fafa Picault. And if that's the case, what you're doing is locking it down defensively and hoping Fafa Picault can give you something over the top. And I think that's like an understandable strategy. I think, to me, I was disappointed that he decided to still make those 3 subs so quickly after it went 10 versus 10. I would have wanted to give those guys another maybe like 10 minutes of 10v10 to see what they could do, because you only have one substitution window left. And so once you fire your bullet, that's it. And I think I would have wanted to see how the game developed. He decides to leave Suarez on at that moment, right after the second red card. I'm sorry, the second yellow that turns into the second red. And then he can't take Suarez off. So
that's not even my
tough.
concern. Can we go substitution by substitution? Because I think there's a really interesting point here, right? First substitution was Lionel Messi out, Federico Redondo in. This was when Inter Miami was 11 versus 11. That makes no sense to me. That substitution makes no sense to me.
Can I offer something that might change it? If Javier Mascherano doesn't think Yannick Bright can go 80 minutes or 78 minutes or whatever it was, what would you have wanted him to do?
If not Yannick Bright, I would have taken Kremaski on, and I would have put Segovia in the middle, Kremaski on the left-hand side as a left wide midfielder, because you didn't need somebody. And I understand Rodrigo de Paul in that number 10 role was phenomenal, man of the match. But I think at that point you could see we needed legs, and Redondo was, okay, I can justify the substitution. But what makes it worse for me was that Redondo was very poor in this game, according to me. I didn't think he was good at all. And he often disrupted play. And Inter Miami needed the game to flow at that point in time. Redondo doesn't allow you to do that. Kremaski gives you a runner in behind. There's so much more that you can do. And I understand Bright may not be able to go the 490. So my obvious choice would have been Bright in the 6, put Rodrigo de Paul on the 10. But you had Kremaski in there.
Well,
so anyways.
I think it's not okay. What my response to that is, I think generally, although I would agree with you, maybe not in this game, I think Redondo is probably a little less likely to turn the ball over in the midfield, which is something we identified as a concern. But then just leave DePaul there, put Kremaski out wide, and then move Segovia to the 10. And I think that makes more sense.
Exactly.
Because
that
Rodrigo
was what I was
DePaul
getting
is
at.
going to ball out in this game no matter what. I'm sure we will get to Rodrigo DePaul.
And then next we had what?
So you get the red card.
You get the red card.
Allende.
Hideo Allende comes off. Gonzalo Lujan comes on.
Terrible. I mean, Lujan's the worst.
Aviles came
player
on.
this team, no doubt.
Aviles came on, and he had that one moment at the end where he chased the ball back, put in a tackle, won it, and it just got back up like nothing's wrong. I was thinking to myself, how is this player not getting 90 minutes worth of football at least once a week? I just do not understand. Lujan was utterly terrible.
I agree.
Then we had Toto Aviles come on for Noah Allen. Sorry, my mind's gone.
Okay, no, it's okay.
I need to get through this.
We'll let it ride. Dude, it's a raw reaction. That's what it's for.
Telasco Segovia comes off, who I thought was one of the best players on the pitch next to Rodrigo de Paul. You take him off every single time, the floor completely gets shot for at least the next 10 minutes. He is the player that makes everything work other than Messi. You have to play him 90. I don't understand why he does that. Okay, you bring Benjamin Kramaski on. You take Sergio Busquets off, which was a really weird
Hold on. Let me stop you.
substitution
Let
for
me
me,
stop you. Let
but
me
that's
stop you.
fine.
Let's go one by one because
Yeah.
I we'll get lost if we do too much at once. I didn't think
I'm
Segovia had a good
fuming.
game, actually. I thought Segovia had an incredible goal. I thought he had a ton of poor touches in this game. I would have expected much better from him. The goal was fantastic. So, like,
Oh, yeah,
overall, I
beautiful.
would give it like
Yeah.
an above average performance, but the goal did a lot of the heavy lifting there. I agree with you, though. I think, like, based on his today performance, I think it's understandable to take him off. But like you said, we've seen it so many times where you take him off and it disrupts the flow. So I hear your point. I agree with it. I will say I didn't think he was having a particularly good game. Okay, what was the next one? Busquets for Yannick Bright.
Busquets for Yannick Bright. I mean, Yannick Bright coming on the pitch,
I actually
bro.
didn't mind
He's
this
gone,
one.
man. He's gone. He's going to go to. He's going to go to Italy or somewhere. The
Okay, so
commentators at this point are soliloquizing about Yannick Bright, and you're like, yeah, he's phenomenal.
so this one, I thought this was really interesting because
Yeah,
they never take off Busquets ever.
I was so surprised.
I was surprised too, but I kind of got it because you're better defensively with Bright on the field than Busquets, and it's 1-1. But you just got the second red card, which is why I would have liked to see him give those guys 7 more minutes on the field to see if Busquets can be part of getting that second goal. I just thought he made that change considering the red card came. I thought he made it too early after the second red card. And then the third sub was Noah Allen for Toto Aviles. I think we can probably assume Noah Allen was not good
Can't
for
go.
90 minutes
Yeah,
unless
yeah.
it was an emergency. So that would make sense.
I
thought
think this
Aviles
game was
great, by the
screaming
way.
for Fafa, by the way. That was the one player I would have brought on. You don't need to take Suarez off, but you needed somebody who can run those traps. And it was just okay. That's it for the substitutions.
No, but to stick on them for just a second, the Gonzalo Lujan substitution I think was unnecessary, because you have Busquets who can play a center back, and you can survive until halftime. But to waste a second substitution in the 20th minute of the game, you panicked. You panicked. There was no need to do that. So I thought that was the catalyst for a lot of the things you're talking about. Because if you have that second substitution window, I guarantee you Fafa does come into this game because he doesn't have one bullet, and he has time to think about it because he doesn't just have to make a decision right after the red card. Okay. Anyways, Anton says, Miami King says, no, the first was on Allen. He says Allen, again, is not that great as people think, just a very ordinary MLS defender or a sub. He was, I thought he was okay. Like, I certainly at fault for the goal. I thought maybe like even a little below average. This was his first start back. I will also say he was significantly better than Maxi Falcone and Gonzalo Lujan. So if you're talking about those three, Noah Allen is clearly the best. Clearly.
By miles.
But
And
Aviles,
yes,
I
that
thought,
goal
had the
was
best
on him, by the
performance.
way.
It
Aviles
was.
was the best, I think, yesterday. Today.
No, I don't want to let Cello off the hook that easily. Like, he lets that cross in way too easily. He's
Way
too
too
slow to
easily,
get
yeah,
out there.
yeah.
But of course, the final ball, Noah Allen has to.
By the way,
he's a
there
step
were
late
a
to see.
lot of average performances today from the starting 11 players. A lot of them.
Okay.
Good thing Allende won't get hair in that flew north anymore.
I was thinking that. Anton says Avila should have replaced Lujan, not Allen. Yeah, again, I think we have to assume Allen wasn't ready to go 90 minutes unless it was absolutely necessary. And then Anton says, oh my God, is Bright good or what?
He's silky smooth, man. He is just insane. He also looks. Does he look bigger? I don't know. Like, he looks bigger and just more.
Dude, his ball
more
progressing.
quick.
I think he might be the best ball progressor outside of the Barcelona.
Dude,
5
he's an 8 now. He's turning into an 8. He's not a 6 anymore.
He's
And the
carrying
number
the ball
of times
forward.
he's carrying the
passing,
ball
he's
forward.
breaking the lines.
The best part was he lost the ball at one instance, and then like 20 seconds later he won it back and then passed it on. Like, yeah,
not even like 3.5 seconds later. Miami King says
it's
DePaul is great,
insane.
especially mentally. Rodrigo DePaul, I thought was
Man of the
really
match.
good. I thought he was really good last game.
Man
He
of the
was
match.
awful compared to what he was tonight. He was unbelievable
Man
in
of
this
the
game.
match.
I don't
I
know
don't
what to
think
say.
there's not a single blade of grass on that pitch that he didn't cover. And I
But not just
wish there
that,
was
the
somebody else
carrying,
next to him. Yeah.
the ball
The
carrying
level as
through that
well.
midfield. Dude, I agree with you. I thought he was. I mean, I'll rewatch the game, but I thought he was
I think
unbelievable.
so.
By best player on the field, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And the quality and the you can just sense that this is a player that's playing at a different level from everybody else in terms of technicality, the just the way he plays and carries himself on the pitch is just so good.
Natalia says, "Vamos Rocco." I think we're going to talk about Rocco's Leagues Cup for a long time if we're able to get out of this group stage.
Dude, get
Because
him a
he's been
transfer,
awesome.
man. We can get some money for him. Get him a transfer. He's been really good.
He's been fantastic. This is a different player than what we've seen in any of the MLS games he's played in this season. The confidence, obviously, he wins us the penalty save. By the way, can I just say, when the opposing goalkeeper came on to take that kick, I was like, I've never been more confident that this guy's going to put it in the back of the net. Do you know how good you have to be as a goalkeeper at taking penalties to be picked in the top 5? It's unbelievable.
But also, just about Rocco, he wasn't good just on the penalties. He was good in the game as well.
He was very good in the game. He made some big saves. And
Massive
not only that,
saves.
the two goals that did go through, absolutely nothing he could have done on the first one. And if he was somehow able to save that second one, we would have called it the save of the season. Because not only would it have, in the end, gotten Inter Miami 3 points, but it would have been a 1
But
out
also,
of 100
like
chance. To make that save.
5 minutes later, he had a very similar one-on-one opportunity where he saved it. I was like, why couldn't you do that 5 minutes earlier?
Anton says, I like Rocco. INX says Suarez bombed that one, talking about the penalty. Okay, we could have had a different conversation if he missed the penalty.
He blasted that one.
Okay, let's get to the big talking point from this game. Anton asks, is 5 points after 2 games going to be enough? I don't think so.
Unfortunately, I don't think so.
But I will say it keeps us alive through the third.
It keeps us alive. There's hope. And I think
hope.
the third game is going to be super, super fun to watch just because of the permutations and combinations of what's happening in the table. But I think keep your expectations low. I think Inter Miami is 80% out the door, 20% maybe some chance, but it's not looking good.
We'll see what happens tomorrow in the MLS. But the big day for MLS victories came on game day 3, which means they'll come the day after on Sunday. So Inter Miami has to go out and get 3 points, and then if they get eliminated on Sunday, there's nothing you can do about it. But listen, so that's why I didn't want to necessarily start this talking about how great the penalty shootout was. It's because I actually do think they got eliminated in this game.
I'm a little confused because I'm looking at the league table on Google right now, and it says Inter Miami's top of the table with 6 points, which doesn't make sense.
Well, they are top of the table with 5 points.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. This says 2 wins and 6 points, which is still funny.
It'll fix that. The big MLS day was game day 3, so a lot of teams will have a chance to get 6 points tomorrow. If they can win. So we'll find out. I think tomorrow is the big day. If a bunch of those teams end up losing or getting 1 point, like we'll be right back in it. But I think as far as right now, it's not looking good, bruv.
I love your usage of the word bruv. Thank you. Thank you for giving me that.
PG says, Mascherano out. Coward. He lost this game with the subs.
I think we'll dissect it more tomorrow about how the subs should have gone or could have gone or what was done wrong or what was done right. I will say, strap yourself in, guys, because there's a high chance now that we end the season without a single trophy.
Let's hold off on the Mascherano conversation because if they get through, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they get through. And if they don't get through, then we'll have that conversation. Cynical Tube says we lost a lot tonight, but proved we are here to stay. One thing we haven't touched on yet, Lionel Messi goes down in the 10th, 11th minute.
I think he had a dead leg.
I don't think he had a dead leg, dude. He would have stayed in if he had a dead leg. I don't think he pulled a ACL
muscle.
Or
I think it was a contact injury.
I think it may have been he bumped his knee. He might have a knee bruise. That's what I would guess. But he walked off under his own power. I don't think he had it wasn't an Achilles or an ACL or something that's going to be like super serious. Did he pull his groin or something? I guess we'll find out soon, but
I don't think so. He was
I
getting his
think it
thigh
was
massaged.
I think it was probably like a knock to the knee, and he was like, "It's a little unstable. I don't want to test it." And probably at that point, they thought they were certainly good enough to win this game without him, and I think they would have been. Gabriella says an entertaining game, a hot mess. Might be a great way to describe what we just watched.
That should be our next title for the video, Hot Mess.
The Devon Knit says DePaul was the only positive. I want to stop on him again because he's a 17 million pound. I mean, he's the third most expensive transfer in MLS history, and he played like it tonight. He was awesome.
There was this one pass that he made to Kramaski, which Kramaski, I think, shot the ball instead of passing it to Suarez or Alba on the other side. But I could not see that pass coming. I thought he was going to pass it out wide, and he just put a Messi-esque or a Busquets-esque pass. And that made me think, okay, this is a player that's level above everyone else on the field right now. It was brilliant.
But you know what we did see? You got to find a way to have Yannick Bright on the field together with, and I can't understand Tadeo Allende starting and Yannick Bright sitting. It doesn't compute with me. You got to find a way to get them both, to get Yannick Bright on the field and take Allende off. You just have to.
Yeah.
Abhishek says the red card was stupid. I had some people talking to me on Twitter trying to say it was Maxi Falcone's fault. I thought it was just the most obvious dive, and I cannot believe that was given as a red card. I can't believe it.
I do also want to crucify Maxi Falcone on this.
Okay, but there's a difference between saying he made a dumb decision and then actually he deserved a red card. And I want to make sure we're clear about that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
He did not deserve that red card. Absolutely not. That was not a red card on any planet. Why did he suddenly stop when he could have got to the ball very easily? That was an amateur move. And for that, I think I'm going to give him the heron that flew north award just because of that. He didn't deserve the red card. He put himself in a position that was just... Why? Why would you do that? Rocco wasn't coming in until you stopped running. And that makes no sense. So, sorry, but Maxi Falcone was...
I agree. Really dumb decision. Still not a red card.
And not a red card. Absolutely not.
I also want to say Cello with a terrible back pass that set that whole situation up. Just some really poor moments from Cello in this game. Abhishek says, why did they sub Segovia? I know we talked about it, but I don't know why they do it every game. I don't understand.
It's I think one of those written rules that Javi Mascherano has on his wall, which says Cello Weigand will play every single game. Lujan is the best defender in the world. Yannick Bright is only going to get 20 minutes off the bench, and we're going to sub off Segovia every time he's playing really well.
Can I just say, I do want to say one thing. For anyone that says Noah Allen's not that good, Noah Allen is so good that he forces Mascherano to play him over the guys that Mascherano wants to play. So, and no one else is doing that. Alan Obano's not doing that. Yannick Bright's not doing that. Ian Frey's not doing that.
Starting the next game? Noah Allen, because Falcone is not available.
Well, apparently he earned the spot over Lujan today.
Yeah.
Okay, Miami King has an interesting point. Overall, this game exposed the big issue of attacking we've been worried about. Got lost when Messi was not on the pitch. This is the part that specifically I'm interested in. Mascherano has no experience without Messi on the pitch. This is something that I am nervous about because I don't necessarily think they're going to get through the group stage here, which means that's another trophy they're not going to win, which means it's MLS Cup or bust. And if anything happens to Messi, like it did today, Mascherano has no experience managing without this guy because he plays him 90 minutes every single game. And I love Messi, and he's a phenomenon, and I can't say enough good things about Messi, but also I don't want to die just because Messi has to not play for some reason. So
the thing is, this team is more than Messi. It has to be more than Messi. I'm not saying
It
it is
certainly
more
was
than
today.
Messi right now. It has to be more than Messi. And we played well enough to get something out of this game, but there's a certain lack of experience of how to manage the game or how to set this team up for success when Messi's not available. Even when Messi's on the pitch, we can just talk about the game plan, the play style, how we are very passive and conservative. You will notice the more you watch the game and the more you look out for that. But the number of times we back pass when there's so much of an opportunity to just progress the ball forward is not even funny. Some of these players are constantly passing backwards when they should be turning and looking forward.
Well,
Redondo, case in point. Cello Wigan, case in
this
point.
is this is what MLS players do. Let's be clear. Like I don't want to. This is what the MLS level is. Okay, there's
But this
very
is not
little
the. But this is not a normal
best 11.
MLS team, though.
No, I agree. So, but let's make sure we keep it in that context where it's like you have options to be great. It doesn't mean that these guys are terrible.
Exactly.
They're average MLS players, but you have a chance to be spectacular.
And there's
Go
a
for the
reason why I
spectacular.
mentioned that, because when Messi is not there, you can just see Javier Mascherano's mentality just completely switches to, oh my God, I don't have my savior on the pitch. We're going to have to grind this result out. Let's lock up. And that's when the team becomes like ultra conservative and risk averse. Just because Messi's not on the pitch doesn't mean that you can't take the risks. I feel like you have to take extra risks to go that one step further. And he thinks that once he
Well, but
doesn't have Messi to save the game, he just completely locks it down because
yeah,
the
the
way he
problem
wins it
is
is defense.
the problem is not that Redondo needs to be better. It's that it should
No,
be
no,
someone
no.
that's not Redondo.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a Mascherano thing though, and I want to make sure we clarify the difference.
Or
That's a
just
decision
coach
making
the
on
team
Mascherano.
differently. No,
Yeah.
I 100% assure you, Redondo can play a forward pass. It's about the
yeah.
instructions that you give them.
True, fair. The Devinit goes to your point earlier that we absolutely bottled every minute that it was 10 versus 10. I'm so interested in rewatching this game because my mindset wasn't dividing it in the way that you were, but I do wonder how much taking Busquets off the field affected our ability to be, control the pace and control the tempo. Because I agree with you. I did note it. Like it was the 76th minute, and I thought to myself, man, we wasted half of the rest of this game without really creating a good chance. I'll be really interested to watch that on the rewatch. Arya says, what's the update on Messi? According to Telasco Segovia, after the game, he talked to Messi, and Messi told him that he was fine, but they haven't done any tests yet. That's the latest I can find on Lionel Messi.
I think
Tony?
he'll be okay.
I think he'll be okay too.
Yeah.
Tony says Redondo, Lujan, first subs, absolute stupidity. And then Anton says, hard to see enough teams ahead of us dropping points against what seem like weaker opponents. That's true, but you have to remember, these are MLS teams, and they are poised to do stupid things, which is
Something
sort of
tells
the
me
MLS
that
way.
third game is going to be immense. It's going to be fun to watch because there's going to be an opportunity for Inter Miami to sneak through. And if that's the case, strap in, guys. I also want to say, Jordi Alba deserves a special trophy for two things. I don't know what the second thing was about, so I'd like to understand and get your perspective in it. First, with the finger wagging to the keeper. That was hilarious. I think that was so funny. I love that. I love a bit of shithousery, and I excuse my language. That's the only word I can come up with that defines my point. And then the second one was he hugged David Ruiz after scoring that goal, and I was very curious as to why that's the case. Did you
I
see
was
that?
too. I did. After he scores the regulation goal.
Yeah,
The finger
yeah.
wag came on the penalty.
Oh,
after.
yes.
I did. I was surprised they weren't hurrying back to the line to try and win it.
Yeah, but not just
I don't know
that,
what that
but
was about.
he gave David Ruiz a very long hug, and David Ruiz looked a bit emotional.
And he
which
came to
makes
the
me
sideline
think,
for it. Like it wasn't, yeah.
yeah,
I saw
he
that too.
might. Is he going through something personal, or maybe he's getting transferred? I don't
I don't
know.
want to speculate on that.
Yeah, but it was interesting. Curiosity kills the cat, I guess.
Abhishek says Suarez is super smart, and then Josh says Suarez can't be fantastic when he can't score. Scoring is his job. I think I agree with both of those. Rob says Scotty's so foolish. Suarez was so bad. I'll take that. Anton says, what happened to Messi? I didn't see a bad impact. Should we be worried?
I think it'll be fine.
I think he'll be fine. And again, Telasco talked to him after the game and then talked to the reporters. And apparently Messi told Telasco that he's fine, but that they haven't done any tests yet. So we don't have an update.
Yeah.
Tony says, Scotty, you've lost all your credibility with that statement about Suarez. Tony says, need these Mexican clubs to beat MLS teams. Circus Fun says, why did they get 3 points for the win, not 2? They got 2. I think Google's just having trouble with it. Ramos says, not winning.
Miami out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. If they gave us an extra point for that, I would say the MLS was helping Inter Miami out in an unfair advantage. I would definitely say that.
Anyone who says MLS biases into Miami can watch this game and look back at it. Even VAR didn't step in. That was so weird.
That was the thing with the VAR is like you just never know what their relationship with the referee is like, and so some of them are just afraid to overturn the referee's call. Some of them are very ambitious in terms of thinking they're the right person. We talked about this last time that there's not a really good standard on how that should be handled across the world. Abhishek says, Common Inter Miami does not have pacey wingers. They need they need the fullbacks to go up. The lack of pace did hurt. And I thought it was curious that they took Allende off, not because Allende deserved to be on, but that he was your one pacey option over the top. And I will take you back to early in the season against Charlotte when we were down a man because Oscar Stadi got a red card for a dog-so penalty. And it was Tadeo Allende, right in the beginning of the second half, who gets that ball over the top one-on-one with the keeper and finishes, and we win that game 1-0. Not that Tadeo Allende deserved to stay in this game. He's been really bad lately. But to not have that pace over the top, I thought also hurt. And I almost think if you do have that with the playmaking ability from what we saw of Rodrigo de Paul, we might have gotten a goal going the other way.
That's what I was saying.
That said, I would have started Fafa and left him on.
Yeah. Inject some pace into this and keep Suarez on. Inject some pace, and I think we're talking. Minnesota scored one. They're 2-1 up.
Michael says Suarez can't even control the ball, and then Ricky
you're
says
getting roasted
Suarez
in the
played
chat.
really
Wait
well
till you
today.
get to the last one. Sorry.
Okay, well, I'm excited. Cynical says Minnesota winning, not good. Tati says Messi hamstring injury, 3 weeks out. I don't
think it was hamstring.
I don't think that's what this was. Abhishek says Lujan didn't cover up, was high ultimately on the first goal. I'm not going to blame him for that, but I also thought he had enough poor moments to think he was poor.
Second goal more so. Let's blame him for that.
It was all him. It was all his fault on that one. Okay, let me go look at who played in this game so we can see who we didn't talk about yet. There was so much that happened in this game. I feel like we've missed 4 or 5 things, but what else is on your mind?
So many times because one of their players, Rojas, came on and he was playing in the number 10 and he was bowling out. And I kept thinking to myself, I wish we had Matas Rojas. I enjoyed watching him play. We talked about Rocco Rios Novo. We talked about Wigan. Alba. We didn't talk about Alba with that header. That was a header and a half.
Dude.
Great. By the way, what a ball by Rodrigo de Paul. What a ball.
I don't know if you were watching Jordi Alba the last 15 minutes of the game, but he looked like he had given up. Like he was having a bad turnover and throwing his hands down, turning around, not paying any attention. And then for him to go and get the game equalizer, that is something. Yeah. Steven says, I think Frey at right back, Toto instead of Lujan, and we could have had some better subs for pace up front. And the thing is, if you had started the game in that situation, you would have had those guys on the field, and then you would have had a bunch of substitutions ready. I don't understand how the lineups keep looking like they look like, because you have better players on the bench. And
I do, because Javier Mascherano is picking the lineups.
No, but he must see the things we see, and I don't know what he sees that we don't see. Except Suarez. I see what he sees about Suarez that you don't see. No, I'm kidding.
Doubling down, I guess.
But it's not just, Suarez, you can understand because Suarez is Suarez. Just like if Busquets had to run a terrible form, he would keep him on, or Jordi Alba, or even Messi, or even DePaul now. But like the Tadeo Allende thing, the Chelo Wagon thing, the Gonzalo Lujan thing, even Maxi Falcone, who, he's had some phenomenal performances this year, but his like median performance is like below par.
Below average, yeah.
Yeah. So Tunde says one of two things changed Mascherano's mind. Either he went conservative for the penalty win after the red, or he saw Suarez look really unhappy knowing he was about to come off. This is the decision to not take Suarez off for Fafa in the 63rd minute, right after it's a second yellow for.
But here's the thing, right?
For Necaxa.
If that's the situation, if it's the first one, the second one in this case, where Suarez looks really unhappy, that's not the coach's problem. He has to do what he thinks is best for the team.
Let's be clear. That's speculation. That's just speculation.
Exactly.
We don't know if that's the case.
So that shouldn't even be a consideration.
I agree with you. That should not be a consideration, but that's speculation. We don't know if that's the case.
Agree.
Steven says, I don't think you could have waited. Rojas was killing us. We needed to get Bright on. We completely shut down Rojas. I agree. Bright needed to come into this game. I thought he should have come on at halftime because you wouldn't have had to use a substitution window. I would have taken Redondo off at halftime and put in Bright. You would have been able to keep Busquets on, and it's not like Redondo was going to contribute a game-changing moment in this game. So if you didn't feel like Yannick Bright could go 75, 80 minutes, fine. But if you felt he could go 45, he should have come on at halftime, I think. And then you save that substitution window for later. But again, he never should have used the second one in the first half. So Tunde says Wagon with a total cello moment for that red card. Yeah, I don't think it should be forgotten that the Maxi Falcone situation is even a thing because Cello has a terrible back pass. So yeah. Okay, Saur, why don't we call it there? We'll switch up the modes here. And we'll let you go. But any final thoughts on this game before we rewatch it and head back for next time?
No, a lot of good talking points from this game. First and foremost, Inter Miami grinded a result out. Great heart. Continued to fight. Were 10 men down. Oh, not 10 men down. Were 1 man down. Played 10 versus 11 for a long while. I think should have done better when they went up 10 versus 10. But ultimately, it could have gone from we're out of the tournament to now, okay, there's some hope left. I think that makes for a really fun last leg of the league stage. And I think the third game is going to be brilliant. So strap in. One more, and we'll see how it goes.
I agree. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow with a full game breakdown. But thanks for joining us for the Raw reaction. And we will see you guys next time. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day. Okay guys, we're going to try something else this time. Saur is going to leave early, so we're going to call that the Raw reaction, but we're going to call this the Raw reaction after party because this happens sometimes where we have so many comments and they're so good, and I want to read through them and I want to keep talking about them and I want to keep talking with you guys. And listen, Saur has to get up early for work tomorrow, so we're not going to make him stay too long. But I want to get to some of these comments because I think they're really interesting, and so I'm just going to stay alive and we can keep talking. Ash says, my theory is Mosh was supposed to be a figurehead coach, but he actually decided to manage, much to our detriment. This is interesting. This isn't really where I'm at as a fan. I think they certainly wanted Mascherano to be a figurehead, but they didn't want to do some of the work required of being a coach. And what I mean by that is watching the film, coming up with game plans, coming up with working with the young kids to get them development and to get them minutes. Like Messi doesn't want to do any of that. Messi's team doesn't want to do any of that. So they wanted to bring someone in who could do that, but they wanted to make sure when it was game time, and by game time I mean the big games, that they were going to be able to control the coach. And control the coach is probably the wrong word, but they were going to be the stars. And so Certainly Mascherano was unprepared for this. And there's some more comments to that liking. We'll get to those in a second. But there's no doubt about that. He was picked because he was going to let these guys do what they wanted to do, and then he was going to handle the dirty work of coaching, right? Abe says, agree, we cannot win hardware with a coach that does not have the authority to replace certain players. Fafa for Suarez. I do want to be clear. We don't know for sure that was even going to be the substitution. And I also think, personally, I wouldn't have taken Suarez off for Fafa at that moment anyways. It's just tough, but you go back to 10v10, 61st minute. You make the substitutions 2 minutes later, and it's your final shot. You kind of want to keep Suarez on because he can get you the game-winning goal. And again, I also want to be clear. I thought Suarez was having a really good game up until that point. I can be convinced he was kind of poor after that. If, on the rewatch, I'll be the judge of that. But I think really the mistake was making the substitution right after. Let the game flow for another 10 minutes and see what was, what the guys on the field were going to do, which was still mostly the lineup you constructed when you went straight to 10 men. A lot of your starters plus the Redondo and Lujan decisions, which came right before and right after that initial Maxi Falcone red card. This is the lineup you thought was going to be the best to get you the win. All of a sudden you're back to 10v10. Give them a chance to go for it for more than 2 minutes. I thought that was the big mistake. And then you see, listen, if Suarez is going to be bad for those 10 minutes, fine, take him off. Maybe he's going to be great for those 10 minutes. Maybe Segovia was going to be the difference maker. It's just to not give them a chance to go for it when they finally got the advantage back, I thought was the real mistake there. And Upcode says subbing Segovia off was really bad. Abhishek says Jam is Javier Mascherano is an ordinary coach. He thinks this is the last job he'll ever have as a coach. They're going to fire him, I'm fairly confident, if he doesn't win the MLS Cup. And I don't know if he can win the MLS Cup without Messi being an absolute phenomenon. Listen, we know Messi in this league, in this continent, can carry this team to anything. But he also has moments where his form drops. And if that happens at any point and it costs Inter Miami the MLS Cup, Javier Mascherano is going to be the fall guy. And I'll be honest, I don't know where he does go from there. I do think he has some fundamental issues that are going to make it difficult for him to be a coach long term, but I don't want to get into that right now because it's not what this moment is about. Hib says this book was textbook for players that can run. Sean says Bright to Venezia, please. I think he's so much better than Venezia. Venezia's going down to the Serie B, I think, this year. He deserves to be like a mid-table Serie A player, like right now. But I think the thing with Yannick Bright is you're going to have to go to the contract situation with him soon. He's the lowest paid player on the team now that they traded Leo Alfonso. He needs a new contract. And that contract's either going to be, we're going to keep you here for the next 5 years, or it's going to be, we're going to set you up to go get that big move you want. And I think part of that's going to be what Yannick Bright wants. Part of it's going to be what does Inter Miami see the future of him in the midfield looking like? Because he's too good to not be starting on a regular basis. And so if it's going to be Busquets long-term, Busquets and DePaul long-term, like maybe there isn't a role for Yannick Bright. Maybe you structure this in a way that helps him get the big move. But maybe Busquets retires and your plan is, listen, Redondo's going to go at some point this winter. We're going to get a number 10 or we're going to get a right back as our next U22 DP. And Yannick, we're going to make you and DePaul the best midfield in the MLS. And we're going to give you the contract that shows you we want you for that. Like I think both of those are on the table, but certainly not Venezia. He's better than that. I will say, I'm assuming you're saying Venezia because there's some USMNT players that have been there recently. Yannick Bright's a better player than Gianluca Busio, and he's a better player than Tanner Desmond, like right now. And I mean that so seriously. Marina says, I have to be honest, I stopped watching when Lujan came in. I just couldn't see that. The timing of the subs were weird as well. I thought they were going to lose this game after that second goal, of course, as most of us did, I'm sure. Awesome comeback, but I just couldn't help the irony of Gonzalo Lujan being the guy that gave up the trophy losing goal and having the trophy losing moment when he's been so poor and it's been so clear to see to everyone all season. And for him to be the guy because Mascherano stubbornly stuck with him, I whatever's the negative version of irony, it would have been that. Pythia says, please explain Busi and Segovia off for Redondo. I can't explain that. I think Javier Mascherano should have taken Redondo off. I get that he came on 15 minutes later because he came on when Messi had to get substituted off. But it's okay. You can still take him off. Like, that felt like an amateur coach not wanting to take off a player that he substituted on who wasn't having... Like, I didn't think Redondo was good, but I didn't think he was awful. Nick Smith says, Lujan is the worst. Lujan is so bad, says Upcode. Tunde says, I'm not sure it was fine to leave Busquets there in center back. We would have had even less control with Redondo and DePaul in the midfield. I hear your point. I'm not saying you're necessarily wrong, but when you were up 1-0, I think it's worth trying. Like, I don't think you have to make that decision right away. I don't think you have to make that decision right away. I think you could have let it play out a little bit. Maybe when they equalize, if you feel like it's because Busquets is the reason, he's the fault line, then okay, we can have a moment there. But I mean, I get it. You already lose your advantage with the 1-goal lead. Listen, Busquets is a better center back than Gonzalo Lujan, and I know Javier Mascherano doesn't see that, or maybe Busquets is telling Mascherano he doesn't want to play center back, but I don't know what to tell you. Busquets is a better center back than Lujan, and that's who he brought on. So Anton says, I still blame Lujan for the first goal. He was there. He just needed to cut off the pass or the passing lane. I'll rewatch this. Certainly there was a disconnect in terms of the positioning of Lujan, Cello, and Noah Allen, but I don't want to blame Lujan just for the sake of blaming Lujan. So I will keep an eye on that. Natalia says, I can't believe I'm cheering for Club America. RDP with 2 assists, and AZ says RDP saved our butts. He was so good. I thought he was really good in that first game. He was 40% better in this game. He was awesome. Jeffrey says it felt like Bright held the entire team together for 15 minutes. How he doesn't start for this team is beyond me. And I know that this is something else Javier Mascherano doesn't really do. You can build players' fitness. You know, Segovia, if you don't think he's good for 75 minutes, or if you don't think he's good for 90 minutes, you play him for 65 minutes, and the next game you play him for 70, and then you play him for 78, then you play him for 85, and then all of a sudden he is good for 90 minutes. And he doesn't do that with any of his players. I remember him saying this with Yannick Bright early in the season. Yannick Bright can't go 90 minutes. And it's like, well, if you think he can't go 90 minutes, you should extend him until he can go 90 minutes because these are professional athletes and they can do that. And by the way, you're forcing all these 38-year-olds to go 90 minutes. So I don't understand why Bright doesn't start. I don't understand why Segovia comes off. Marina says, now you know why we needed DePaul. Again, it's just fantastic. PG says, got to put some respect on Rocco's name. Another play that was awesome. Upcode says, Crema was bad. He stopped the flow of play. Gabriela says, shout out to DePaul for the 2 assists. Lawrence says the ref performed poorly. Josh says Rocco's a decent MLS keeper. I do want to say for Rocco, he's been so much better of these last 2 games than he has been in any of our previous games. Any of the games he's played in the MLS this season. Like, night and day. I'm just going to check if there's an update on Lionel Messi. Yeah, the last thing I see is the Talasco news. Listen, Inter Miami, he'll either play on Saturday or we can start getting worried. Justin says Suarez was not good. He fumbled a chance. And Josh says this format is terrible. It should be the top 8 from each league. I appreciate the MLS trying to make changes. Not just the MLS, the MLS and Liga MX, trying to make changes to address some of the concerns. I think they kept some things from last year and the first 2 years that made sense in the context of the first 2 years that don't make sense now, that I think actually are maybe the biggest problems. One of the things they did was kept geographic pods. But what that does is it gives teams a huge advantage if your pod on the opposite league is poor. And that's what ended up happening on the West Coast, where Atlético San Luis and Querétaro are the two worst Liga MX teams. So for the three MLS teams that get to play those two, it's like an easy 6 points. And that's three teams that are getting basically a free 6 points. And not just the 6 points, but also like a hefty goal differential. And it felt to me like there's no way to do it evenly when you're only playing 3 games, but at least do it randomly across the country. And because they're not going to live in these different places, right? They're going back to Mexico. You can add an hour or two of a plane flight in order to make this happen. I thought that was a sort of legacy rule from the first 2 years that I don't think needs to be applied anymore. And of course, the penalty thing. By getting 2 points versus 1 point, it really does change the calculus on how these teams should be playing, who should be going for a draw. Like having 2 points versus 1 point and the penalty shootout made sense when you were playing a group stage with only 3 teams and you only played 2 games. You really needed separators because there's so easy for there to be like a 3-way tie or a 2-way tie for a certain spot. But now that there's no way to have a 3-way tie or a 2-way tie for second, there's no reason, I don't think, to have this penalty shootout aspect of it. So I don't get that. Sean says there's a high chance we don't play CONCACAF Champions Cup next year. Cynical Tube says it's a muscle injury. It was confirmed. I'm assuming that's about Messi. Seba says he got injured kicking a player, probably a muscle tear. And Cynical Tube says slight bruising. Sean says, I think Saur is right. It was a Charlie horse above the knee. I think we're all just guessing, guys, and we'll have to wait for the ultimate news to come out. Hopefully tomorrow, but I think actually if it comes out tomorrow, that's probably a bad thing because it means he needs some real time off. I think probably Saturday we'll just see the lineup, and that'll tell us whether he's out for a long time or if he's starting, right? Cynical Tube says Bright is a center back. You lose so much of Bright's talent if you put him as a center back. So I'm hesitant to do this. I'm hesitant to do that. I would rather see Boosie as a center back than Yannick Bright, if I'm being honest. But I am so confident he would be a better center back than Gonzalo Lujan. So Josh says rumors are that we are signing more players. Hopefully Allende's replacement. I will just say Inter Miami has done this several times over the last couple summers where they had players that they were planning on signing and then something falls apart. And so I'm sure they're looking to add talent, but we'll see. And the other thing is, I don't know if this front office has really earned our trust in terms of who to sign. If you look at who they brought in this past window and in the winter, it's Gonzalo Lujan was supposed to be their star center back. Maxi Falcone was supposed to be his star partner. And those two were supposed to be the guys that made all the difference at center back compared to last year. And they've been worse defensively. And they gave Ustari the contract over calendar before they had even seen Ustari play. And it's not that they moved on from calendar that bothers me. It's that they chose Ustari, who hadn't played soccer in like a year, hadn't been a starter. Right? He started 1 game for Miami last year. And they gave him one of the richest goalkeeping contracts in the league. And you talk about Tadeo Allende as a player that's one of their star choices. And Alan Obando, who can't even see the field, was supposed to be the Leo Campana replacement. Like, I don't think the front office is as currently constructed, especially with Javier Mascherano having a significant input, is someone we should put a ton of faith in, if I'm being totally honest. Seba says not only wasn't it even a foul, but it was never a red because the Necaxa player was never beating Rocco. It should have been overturned by VAR. I'll be honest, I didn't spend a ton of time looking at the ball placement for Rocco because it was just never a foul. Sean says Maxi did 2 things wrong on that play. He didn't play the ball, he just got in the way, and he had a slight tug on the jersey. Yes, sure, absolutely, both. But also, Still not a red card. And I want to be clear about that. Maxi Falcone did not handle it well, but also not a red card. Anton says 4-2-3-1 with Boosie and Bright as the 2 and Messi, Segovia, and DePaul as the 3. I'm down to see it. I think that would be a lot of fun too. And I think that is sort of where I think we're most likely to head, because Allende has to come out of the 11 at some point. The speed doesn't make a difference if you can't do anything with it. And you can see the confidence is gone. That first shot, I think it was the 3rd minute, he's open in the box, and his shot is not even close to on target. And that to me is like, it's not a brain thing. He knows where he needs to be. He knows what runs he needs to be. It's a confidence thing where that last second, having your body react the way you want it to react, it just all has to be natural. And at this level, you have to have so much confidence in yourself to just pull it off at a split second. And he's overthinking it. He's trying to be perfect. He's trying to put it in the corner. And there's not this like rhythm or flow to his game that just makes everything easy. So it's clearly a confidence thing with Allende. I don't think he's a terrible player. I think he's in terrible form though. And so he has to sit. And I think taking him off, putting DePaul on, and then putting Bright in the midfield is the best thing we're going to get from Javier Mascherano. And so I absolutely would love to see that, Anton. I think that's a great shout. Tunde says it was a poor pass from Cello. So a miscommunication there. It was a poor decision from Falcone. I think he misunderstood his position on the field, and Rocco was hesitant to come for the ball. All of that's true. All of that's true. Still not a red card, though. Amanda says DePaul's passing is super underrated. He was top 3 in assists for us last season. I'm assuming you're an Atletico fan. Not only is his passing, his ball carrying today was spectacular, though. We have on Inter Miami guys that can spray the ball around, right? Busquets can do things that even Rodrigo de Paul can't do, and Messi can do things that even Rodrigo de Paul can't do. But I think what we're going to get from him as a ball carrier in the midfield is unlike anything we've seen out of the midfield, and that nobody but Messi can do as a ball carrier what Rodrigo de Paul can do. He was fantastic tonight. I don't know what else to say. Defensively, he was really outstanding as well. So, yeah, it was awesome. Cynical says Alba shaking his finger at the keeper was the best. I agree. I kind of like it when they do that stuff. But what I'll add is, I think the goalkeeper saw that and he said, "I'm taking the next penalty." I know it was the one after that, but I think he urged. I think Shorty Alba said he embarrassed the keeper, and the keeper got him back with his own goal. But it was too late at that point, right? They had Rocco had already saved one. Sean says Shield/Cup or bust. It's Cup or bust. It's MLS Cup or bust. They're not going to win the Supporter Shield. I know of course it's mathematically possible, but they're down 10 points. They have 3 games in hand. Which means they have more games to play over the course of the season. We'll see what happens in the League's Cup, but I don't think they're going to get a lot of breaks. Let me just double check that it's 10 points. Sorry, it's 8 points behind Philadelphia. And they don't have a chance to play any of those teams, right? They play one more game against Nashville, but like if they still had a game against Philadelphia, they could get like a 6-point swing, right? Same thing with Cincinnati. You can get that 6-point swing if it's still in front of you. But since it's not in front of them, you just have to hope those teams crash. And of course, both those teams are going to bring new players in. Same thing with Nashville. Columbus has already signed a big striker, a big wide player. So I think it's going to be really tough to win the Shield. And of course, the MLS Cup is just going to be about if Messi's phenomenal. And he's totally capable of doing it. But it feels with how much the ownership has invested into this team and the moves they've made and the work they've put in to assemble this roster and the talent on this team, you should be able to do things without Messi being superhuman. And then if you become the best team in the MLS without Messi being superhuman, and then you add Messi being superhuman on top of that, right, then you're talking about something incredibly special. And that's not what this has been at all. And I do think a lot of that, the blame falls on Javier Mascherano for that. Seba says, I get that you guys have bias towards some players, but come on. Well, I don't know who you're referencing, but Certainly that's true. AK says we're cooked without Messi. Tunde says this is a consequence of Mascherano never trying different options. He has one way, and if it fails, he relies on luck. I think that's a great point. Ash says back passing nearly cost us today. I don't know. Is that how the second goal started? I'd have to rewatch the whole play, but certainly the Maxi Falcone play was a cello back pass that wasn't hit hard enough. Juan de Oliveira says Seattle and Cincinnati are probably teams that will sweep. I agree. Cincinnati, I think, got through Monterrey, and that was the really tough one for them. And they're going to get all their games at home. You know, it's a shame, too. Inter Miami is ranked second overall in the whole tournament, which applies to hosting rights. And the only team they would have not hosted for would have been Cruz Azul, who lost 7-0 to Seattle. So they probably would have been eliminated. So Inter Miami would have hosted every game all the way through the final. So maybe they'll get through. Like, it's not over, but yeah. Mitch asks, let's say Messi is available. Do you keep him on the bench for match day 3, break glass in case of emergency? I haven't done enough research on Pumas yet, but I think if Messi's available to play, he'll play. Like, here's the thing. Messi either has a problem that he'll feel better tomorrow, or he has a problem that's going to linger for a while. And if it's going to linger, I don't think he plays on Saturday anyways. And if he feels fine tomorrow, he'll play Saturday. So Seva says, hopefully no Mexican ref and Mexican VAR on the next match. See, this is the problem, though. Unless that was a fan of Necaxa, you would have, as a Mexican fan, you would have wanted Inter Miami to win because it would help your team by eliminating Necaxa. And that's the interesting, problem with this. But I get that there's some bad blood between Mexico and Messi, so who knows? Mitch says we need Liga MX to go hard tonight and tomorrow. Yeah, I think tomorrow's the big one. 5 of the 6 MLS teams that play tomorrow got 3 points in their first game. So if 2 or 3 or 4 of those drop points, like, we're right back in it because we got 2 points tonight. But we'll see. Circus Fun says the keeper pointed that way to Jordy to dare him to shoot that way. Wow, I didn't see that, but that's interesting. I'd love to rewatch that. Studio says Suarez is the reason Miami doesn't get any penalties because he is overreacting. Yeah, I mean, I saw a blatant handball in the box 2 games ago from Inter Miami, and it wasn't called, so I don't think it has anything to do with Suarez. Cynical says Messi doesn't come off as he's fine. Yeah, but, he might have gotten like a knee bruise that was affecting his ability to walk and run, but might be fine in a day and a half. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be out for 3 weeks. Of course, you guys are saying hamstring, so maybe it is a hamstring. Natalia says, let's give Scotty a chance to rewatch before we roast him. Chris says Rocco over everything. He was awesome in this game. I think besides DePaul, he might have been the second best player for Inter Miami. I thought Suarez was good. I think Segovia's goal was phenomenal, but I thought for the rest of the time his touch was kind of poor. Sean says Maxi is a mid-tier MLS center back. The thing with Maxi is he's like a lightning bolt. He has really high highs, but then he crashes really low. So the median performance is not like solid. The median performance is like 50-50. You flip a coin. It's just either really good games or really, not really poor, but below average to really poor. Sean says like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe. And by the way, let me know in the comments or in the chat if you like just keeping talking like this. Saur is a much more responsible person with a job to save the world, and he has to talk to people all over the world. So he's got to get his beauty sleep. So sometimes we end it a little bit early before we can get to all the chats, but I always feel bad, and I always go read the chats, and I want to engage with you guys. So I thought I would sort of stay on and do a little bit more with that. Libby says Benha was the captain. Yeah, he was. I thought that was cool with Jordi Alba and Suarez and DePaul still on the field. It was Benha was the captain. We saw that earlier in the year when Noah Allen was given the captain's armband. I think it's really cool when they do stuff like that. Nick Smith says Jordi Alba said in postgame that it's not right to have a Mexican ref when playing a Mexican team. I agree with that. I am not sure why this ref was chosen. I don't know. I also didn't think the ref was terrible for the rest of the game. I thought he was like average for the rest of the game. It's just when you have a call that blatantly poor, not only does it affect how you have to ref the rest of the game, but it changes the tournament for both teams. I mean, right? It could have saved Necaxa if they were able to win it. And for Inter Miami, I think they would have won this game 4-0 if it wasn't for that call. So really hurt Miami. Umber says Allende is the worst. Should start Fafa next time. 100% agree. I don't think Allende is terrible. I think he's in terrible form, and he needs a break. Henry says Redondo a sub for Messi was a joke. Agree with that. Ashley says everyone is forgetting when Rocco Rios Novo saved penalties during preseason. I know preseason doesn't count, but not only did he save penalties in preseason, but he did it against the League MX team and won us the game. And guess what? He did it again today. There's something about the Leagues Cup that gets those goalkeepers for Inter Miami going. 2 games ago, was it New York Red Bulls, I think, was the last game we played in the MLS. No, it was the Cincinnati game. Someone in the chat called him Rocco Rios Nervioso, and I thought that was hilarious, but perfectly fitting. And in these last 2 games, he's been spectacular. So congratulations to him, and I think he changed the way people view him, honestly. Natalia says America and Minnesota are tied. I don't know when that was, but I should probably keep track of what's going on. 2-2 in the 58th minute. Atlanta's winning 2-1 over Pumas, but Atlanta lost their first game, so that's fine. Real Salt Lake also losing to San Luis. It's halftime. It's 1-1. I'm sorry, not losing points. It's 1-1. Atletico San Luis, really bad team. And so if Real Salt Lake got 2 points against Club America, well, I think we're okay anyways. Ash says our scouting department needs to focus on football IQ and scouting players. It's a really tough job. But that's why when you have people that are good at it, that work for you, you do whatever you can to keep them. And Inter Miami really pushed everyone out the door at Inter Miami. And they replaced them with, a fresh new group of people that have no experience in the MLS. And so I don't think it's a huge surprise that we're in this spot, but it would be nice if they change that moving forward. Nick Smith says any Inter Miami talk is good, so the more the better. Thank you. Well, one that says Redondo big legs isn't effective. I don't know why he plays over Yannick Bright. I don't get it. I think Kramaski's better in that spot. I will say I don't agree, but I can understand why Javier Mascherano would put him in over Kramaski at that spot. Again, I don't agree, but I can understand. Yannick Bright, I don't get. He's just such a superior player. Tony says, I think our team's going to look completely different heading to the new stadium next year. Who do you guys want to see for the rest of this year? What positions do you guys want to add? Because from what I can tell, they're looking at a forward, they're looking at a center back, and maybe a goalkeeper if they can make it happen. Which is interesting to see what the diagnosis for Ustari is, and then remind ourselves that Ustari is under a big contract for next year too. Ash says, would Redondo work at center back? I don't think so. Let me phrase that. That might be the best career move for Redondo, but I don't think he would work at center back in like a pinch. His defensive instincts, I think, are actually pretty poor. And I think that's the biggest problem he has. I'm okay with sort of a very conservative, safe defensive midfielder if they're a great defensive midfielder. And he's not. He's supposed to be like a ball progression, like get forward, be a part of the offense, spray it around, Busquets light type of defensive midfielder. And he's not that either, obviously. And so he doesn't have like a ton of true strengths. And then when he has a poor game, like there's nothing to sort of prop you back up. Tony says center back, forward, and a striker. I just know we're not going to get a striker. So I don't even think about a striker in my head. I do wonder what the striker situation could look like next year. I think there's a real chance Luis Suarez retires and is not back with the team next year. So they went big for DePaul. I think there's a chance Busquets is back as a TAM. Jordi Alba will be back as a TAM. Obviously, Messi will be back as a DP player. So do you go out and get a DP9, and who might that be? I think that's a really interesting conversation. Not something I really want to get to during the season because it's not going to happen this summer. They're going to stick with Suarez no matter what. But next season, I think about who's connected to Lionel Messi. And you think about Argentina, it's Lautaro Martinez and Julian Alvarez. They're not paying $80 million for any of those guys, even though they might be willing to pay $18 million, but they're not paying 80 for those guys. So I don't know who the striker could be next year. You would imagine they would want to bring in someone that Messi is familiar with, but I don't know who that might be. Tony says Neymar, to get to the forward, I think they want a forward. I struggle to see how they're going to make it work. I know Pellistri's the name, Facundo Pellistri. I don't know if he's like a huge upgrade. I have no idea how they make that work because you would think the transfer fee would have to be like $5 million, $4 million. And then how do you fit that under the budget? I don't know. It's tough. They're going to have to figure that out. I think they're going to focus on the center back first just because they have their replacement for David Martinez. And then what was going on with the international roster slot changes? I think that was really weird. Tony says Neymar if he's healthy. Man, that would be something. That would be, I don't know if it would be great from a footballing perspective, but from an entertainment value perspective, it would be top notch. And I think for Inter Miami, Rodrigo de Paul doesn't really move the needle from a fan interest perspective. And I don't think even a Lautaro Martinez or a Julian Alvarez does that. But I think Neymar does. Like, I think the only player in the world that actually does that for Inter Miami, well, Cristiano Ronaldo would, and Mbappe would, and Erling Haaland would. But in terms of, like, realistic targets, I think Neymar is the only player that does that. So if they really are looking for more out of this project from a commercial perspective, he's the name they have to go get. Natalia says a new number 9, please. Again, I don't think it's going to happen. Pythia says a Miller-type level center back. Come on, Miller. I would like a lefty. But the first thing I want is someone that's better than Gonzalo Lujan and Maxi Falcone. I do wonder what they were thinking when they went and got these guys because they're not tall, they're not athletic, they're not particularly good at playing out of the back. I don't understand what they were thinking. Like, what was the profile they were going for that they thought they were solving with these two players? Maybe one of them, but you would have thought they would have wanted to get a really tall, athletic center back, and they just didn't, which I think goes to show Javier Mascherano didn't want to play a high line. He didn't want to play expansively. He wanted to play very conservatively and protect his center backs. And, I mean, when you have to play a style that protects Messi and Suarez defensively. So the idea that you're going to play a style that protects your center backs is just ludicrous. But I think that was the plan the whole time. Like, that's what they recruited for. I know people give Toto Aviles a lot of flack, but like profile-wise, he's athletic, he's tall, he's good on headers, he's good in the box. Like, he's a lot of things that you would want. And sure, you want him to be a little smarter in his decision making, but he's a young player. You kind of try to work that out. But okay, fine, get a different Aviles that's maybe a little smarter. But Lujan and Falcone, I just don't understand. And Falcone's had some incredible games and incredible moments, but just the profile of player is just weird to me. It's not weird. I think it's just the wrong decision, in my opinion. Honest says Mascherano's concerned about Bright injury. That's why he gets less minutes. I don't think that's why he gets less minutes. Ashley says, I think Redondo was actually having a good game today. I was at the game and he looked pretty on it and got the ball back a bunch of times. Fair. Listen, I'll rewatch it. I thought he lost the ball a couple times, but I think there was like some standout poor moments from Cello, from Lujan, from the No Allen gave up a goal. Maxi Falcone, obviously. I thought Segovia had some really poor touches. Like I didn't think Redondo was terrible, but I don't know if he added a ton. But he's a player often that I get a better sense of him when I rewatch the game. Ashley says Bryce's obviously better, but I didn't think Redondo was bad today. PG says, I thought you guys stopped the stream. Yeah, listen, when there's a lot of chats, I like to just stay on and keep up with it. By the way, Clue America just got a red card, and Minnesota's up 3-2. So hate to see that. Tony says Rodrigo was on fire tonight everywhere. Oh, he is I was underwhelmed with his performance on Wednesday. I thought he was good, especially on the rewatch. Like you can see the little moments, but tonight he was special. And if that's what we got in his second game, I just can't wait to see what we get in game 4 and game 7. Like he has a chance to be unbelievable. Tony says if Messi had played the whole game, we would have won 5-1. I agree, or maybe 5-0. In fact, I think even if Messi came out, but we stayed with 11 guys, I think we would have whooped them. I thought we were just so much more talented. It was just we played 50 minutes without our man down. Natalia says, since we've been watching a lot of League MX, any player you want to steal? And she mentions Angel Correa. He just went to Liga MX, right? From Atletico. Yeah, he's with Tigres. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who I really like in Liga MX. I'll be honest, I'm not that impressed with Liga MX. I think most of the guys I would want would be just really good, solid, steady defenders. Obviously, they can spend more money on their defenders than MLS teams can, but Zendejas is one of the best players for Club America, and I'm pretty familiar with his game. I think he would be an upgrade for Inter Miami, but I don't think he would be a difference maker for Inter Miami. There were some rumors Denny Bouanga was going to go to Club America. Actually, I guess they just signed Alan St. Maximin. I guess that would be that might be the pick. I would love Denny Bouanga on this team. I think he would be phenomenal, and he would give you the speed over the top. If Inter Miami wanted to go spend that DP spot on him in the winter, I think that might even be the move because he gives you the pace over the top, but he also gives you goals. He also gives you assists, playmaking. And he fills the Allende role, but is just a significantly better player. He's MLS proven. He's a superstar. He's an entertainer. He's everything Inter Miami could want. He's a superstar, and not only is he a superstar, he's the exact profile of player you'd want opposite Messi that we're getting from Allende, but he's obviously, Allende is nothing compared to Denny Bouanga. PG says, he says a winger / a left winger would be best. I'm curious what this forward might be for Inter Miami because they've been so committed to this style, this 4-4-2 with Segovia on the left and Allende on the right. And I think the reason they're sticking with Allende is because they're desperate for that pace over the top. And that's why they don't give Kramaski or, Robert Taylor never got a chance. I think they're desperate for that pace over the top. And so you would think another player would have to have that pace over the top, but Pelistri doesn't have. He's quick, but he's not like a burner. Maybe I'm misremembering. I've only seen him play a handful of games for Manchester United, but I really remember him being much more of a quick dribbler than a pacey over the top type of player. I also think it's weird he's a right-footed right winger, but, to each their own. PG says, I think you called it right before. They went with slow center backs because they want terrorist football. I think you can really connect the dots back to that. I don't think it's crazy to think that at all. I really don't. JC says you're wrong about Neymar. Bro's a joke. He's cooked. It's honestly really sad considering his standing in the football world a decade ago. I will readily admit I have not watched Neymar play a single minute of soccer in 4 years. So he may be cooked, but from a commercial perspective, he's still like the big name. Ashley says, I wish we could get Angel Correa. PG says, if Minnesota win, we're pretty much done, right? I don't know. Who does Minnesota play in the third game? Well, you got to remember, listen, Minnesota is susceptible to losing. They could drop points. Depends on who they play in the third game, really. Oh, they play San Luis. Yeah. Well, I think if Minnesota wins this game, they're probably through. That's the third opponent. So it's San Luis, Club America, and Querétaro. Querétaro and San Luis are the two worst teams in Liga MX. And Club America drops points in both their first two games. They're going to be done. They're not going to care for the third game. It's really an unfair advantage to be in that group. PG says, can we steal a coach? By the way, Andre Jardinet, who's the coach for Club America, had a tremendous run at the beginning of his reign at Club America. Has been not as great lately. They talked to him at the MLS All-Star game. He was the head coach for the Liga MX All-Stars. And he talked about wanting to come to MLS at some point. That's a guy Inter Miami was connected to. I wonder if there's something there. And that, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. It's a name I'm going to keep in mind for the coaching search if we don't win the MLS Cup. Nick Smith says, if we got Denny, it would be game over. I agree. Pepto says, call me Pepto, bro. Thanks. Okay, got you. He says Neymar's not good at Santos right now, or far from his best. Well, I haven't seen Neymar play in years, so I admit that I don't know. But you have to wonder how much of that is give him 15 games in a row and start seeing his form. Is the athleticism just gone? Is the quickness gone? I don't know. I haven't seen him play, but I'd be interested to see if there's reason to think it might come back or if it's just gone. And listen, a lot of us disagree on Suarez being gone, so who knows? Ash says we can't play a low block because our back line is Swiss cheese. You got to tell me why we keep doing it. The 4-4-2 formation that we play, 4-4-2 is the most basic and easy to understand formation in football. It's the most basic, solid. We can turn this into a great defensive formation. We can be a little bit aggressive going forward. And that's what Javier Mascherano has chosen to be. And then he put a bunch of really bad defenders on it. So you have to play more defensive to cover up for them. And the thing about Javier Mascherano, the thing about some of these guys that he brought in are, some of them might not be his guys, but some of them are clearly his guys. Gonzalo Lujan, clearly his guy. He brought him to the Olympics with the Argentine Olympic team. It's just clearly his guy. Baltasar, I don't like talking bad about Baltasar. I don't think he's been given I don't think he's had a chance to really show what he's worth yet. But that's clearly Mascherano's guy, and if they were going to buy him, they'd be spending a ton of money on him. He'd have to be a U22, and certainly I haven't seen anything yet to show me he's worth that. So I don't think Javier Mascherano's got a great eye for this, which does concern me about his ability to do this long term. Sorry, I got the Club America game in the background. Natalia says the Necaxa coach was an Argentine player. Gago. Pepto says we have to question the front office if defending deep and hitting on the counter was their plan from the start. No, I agree 100%. And I think if you look back at the decisions made, that's the conclusion you come to. You know who's not a player that you're going to hit on the counter with? Julian Gressel was never part of the plan. Robert Taylor, it's not a part of the plan. Instead, we're going to get Tadeo Allende and Fafa Picault. We're going to use those guys to hit over the top in transition. Not only is it silly from a... Yeah, he says with Messi and Suarez, it's not even possible. It's common sense. Not only is it Messi and Suarez aren't like the athletes to do that, but the thing, they're the greatest players of all time, and they're, right up there. And so, in Messi's case, he is, and in Suarez's case, he's right up there with the best strikers of all time. You got to maximize their strengths. And by doing what we do now, you're really taking away their strengths, Jordi Alba's strengths, Suarez's strengths, even Messi. I mean, he's such a phenom that he can be good anyways, but the fact that we're not playing a style that maximizes what they can do, it's like criminal, because they're such world-class players. They deserve to have the game be catered to them so that they can be special. And the fact that we instead cater to Cello and Ustadi and Maxi Falcone and Lujan, it's insane to me. It's insane. And I think when, you go back and you look at who they brought in and the decisions they made, it's like this was their plan all along. So, I don't know. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to end it there. I did want to get through all the chats because I love talking with you guys. I think it's a lot of fun. But I also want to watch these last 15 minutes and see if Club America can pull a comeback. So I will end it there. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section if you enjoyed a little bit of the Raw Reaction After Party. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for the full game recap. Guess I'll play the outro again. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.